Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths, and this edition is a new edition. I have a co-host now, Xavier Jackson, from who's in his car in Utah. So Xavier,
Yeah, I'm in
thanks
my
so much
car.
for joining.
Thank you,
so
thank
that
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have our guest today is Alfonso Pozzo Delgado. I've never said your full name, all of it, Alfonso. I always tell you guys how I know my guests. And so I'm actually going to start by telling you how I know Xavier first. So Xavier and I got to know each other, I don't know, it must have been over the past couple of years. Had him on my show and as a next genner, and air quotes for people who are listening to this on the podcast. Um, and then right away, I was like, who the hell is this guy? And he is just on his game, leading the way he shows up every day, the way he's doing his work. He's an entrepreneur, runs a couple businesses. And so we just have made fast friends. And we decided that we wanted to come together to help continue to tell the story of real talk with real leaders, but to start to give a little bit more of the how. How are these great real leaders making impact? Which is a bit of representation because those of you in the audience who are listening, you want to know more about these people and you also know how the hell did they get to where they are. So, Xavier, did I miss anything on the how?
Nah, man, it's perfect.
Okay. And I will say this is a bit of crossing generations, which is something that I wanted to do. I think that there's a big gap at times between people who are in my generation and people in Xavier's. So we can learn so much from each other. So coming together and continuing to again, like make that impact because leaders aren't just people who are more experienced. They're people who are coming up and it's never too early to start. So that is my introduction to the new episode. And now Alfonso in Brooklyn, as you were telling us. Thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and always good to see you.
Yeah, you do. So both Alfonso and I go way back to New York City days. I don't really know how we met at some party, some function. We had mutual friends.
We
Uh,
met through our mutual friend Kylie, I believe.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And then we found out that we both went to the University of Michigan. So, the maize and blue blood runs deep. And we're both basketball fans. So, Alfonso, we got to know each other. Alfonso, I don't ever really think I told you, but I always really appreciated how real you were and how when I saw the work that you were doing, folks, he is an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and many other things that you can tell us all about. But the list was long of all the wonderful things you do. Um, and I just always loved how you show up. And you're so authentic and you are leading in the space. When I was working at the Nets, I wanted to hire you to work with us. Unfortunately, couldn't pull it off. And I've just continued to watch you flourish. So that I've wanted you to come on the show for a while. So when I was kind of figuring things out with Xavier, I was like, Alfonso is the first guy I'm going to go to and ask. So help ground us in what are you doing now?
Yeah. So these days, I'm kind of a for hire, I would call, I do a lot. I do producing, I do editing, I do directing. A lot of it is editing, a lot of it is producing, a lot of it is consulting.
Huh.
So, kind of a creative juggernaut is always kind of what I've pictured myself as. And so now I'm working on a project. I can't really talk about it that much because it doesn't have a deal. The deal's not signed yet, but I'm working on a project about college sports,
Oh.
which is, very near and dear to all our hearts, right? You guys played it. I didn't play it, but I was at a lot of them. Actually been tagging or tabulating recently all the games that I went to,
Oh my
which,
gosh.
yeah, feels like a long time ago. But yeah, it's a college sports doc, and I'm very excited about it. And it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a story that hasn't really been told yet. But then also consulting on a couple other smaller projects, and kind of looking for what's next, and trying to get a couple of my own ideas off the ground, which is always I feel like the hardest part. Getting your own projects enrolling, and so yeah, just a lot of I'm one of those people who likes to have a lot of kind of irons in the fire, and a lot of projects going. And sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but it's cool. And I've found myself as I've kind of grown that I like to be focusing on several things, not just one thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think Xavier and I can both appreciate that. The bit of having your hands in a lot of different things. I think it can bring opportunity. It's also, I think it's great to also just kind of notice if that's how authentically how you tick. Because someone else may see it and say, oh, you're not focused on something, one thing enough. But you're like, yeah, no, this is how I tick.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's, it's like, I think that, it's like the old saying says, right? If you want something done, give it to a busy person, right? Like, because someone who's sitting around is going to take them longer to kind of get jump started. Whereas, like, when I'm busy, I realize I can do something else, and like, boom, 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 I can make it in 10 minutes, 20
Yeah.
minutes, whatever it is. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're having a slow day and you have something to do, and it's like, ooh, okay, it seems like, kind of a bigger mountain to climb.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. Did you always have a passion for film when you was coming up? Or because like I know that you have a passion for sports. You stay within it, but like did film come up in it? Or like how did like you get like the film mixed in with the sports?
Yeah, so I always had the passion for sports. I knew that I wanted to go into sports casting. When I was a kid, I was like, I want to be a sportscaster. Well, I didn't really know what that meant. I knew what it was. I knew, I kind of wanted to be Dan Patrick and Stu Scott, and those guys. I mean, Stu Scott was a little later, but Dan Patrick and I was the kid who was always clipping together like the Sports Center highlights every day. Every morning I would like set my VCR, back in the old school VCR days, and like so I could like at the end of the week go back and watch all these highlights and like either emulate Magic and Kareem, or on the court myself, or try to football plays or whatever it was. Or, there were not a lot of soccer highlights on SportsCenter back then, but I got them from other sources. But yeah, so like I always wanted to do that. And then when I got to college, I don't know, Shauna, if you remember WOLV, the student-run TV station.
Oh, yeah.
I did that for a very brief period of time, and I realized, and like they wanted me to do the broadcast. And somewhere out there is a tape of me doing the sportscast
Oh,
for that day, and it was terrible. I was so nervous. I was sweating. I was like, I was like coughing. I think I like rubbed my face. Was like wiping the sweat from my brow because I was, and it was like I was like, this is not for me. I'm not doing this. Like this is horrible. I do not want to be on camera. And then it kind of evolved into. I always worked the athletic department in Michigan. I knew I wanted to do sports, and I got my first job. One of my first jobs in a real job was at ESPN. I was doing sports in there. And I also realized, okay, this is kind of crazy. And like, I was a PA. It was like it was a totem pole. And I knew like, okay, this is cool. Sports are cool. I want to be talking about sports all day long. But I want to do live TV. And then I kind of from there went to MLB, where I went into like the doc side of the world. It was like the early days of documentaries, not even documentaries, like more like TV shows, like the old school. Like if you think of like Inside Stuff, the NBA show with like Ahmad Rashad, and like Willow Bay and all that. It was like that kind of stuff, and then that kind of morphed into documentary. So I kind of evolved into filmmaking. You know what I mean? If I always have different thoughts on that term, but like a lot of what we do is filmmaking, and we definitely tell stories and make films, and so I kind of it was an evolution from being a sports fan and wanting to work in sports TV, which I still do basically, not knowing like exactly the path. I mean, like a lot of us, right? You don't know exactly the path you're going to take, and you end up taking, and it's your journey, and that was kind of it. But yeah, like I guess for me, clipping together these little highlight reels, I guess I was making a little mini film for myself, for Saturday morning when I like get up and go in the backyard, with the ball, try and do what Magic was doing, which I failed. In my eyes, I succeeded.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's always cool to like hear those stories because most people all like Shauna was saying at the beginning, like the beginning hearing what you do makes you interested, but like to figure out like how do you take like a passion and then turn it into like a career, You know, like that's kind of like the hardest thing to do. Like, you know, obviously you try to do that within the sports because that starts off as a passion, you know, and then you go and you grind, and you try to like turn that into a career. But then after that, it's like you really don't have it's like get a job. And when you get into that space, it's kind of hard for you to be able to translate or transfer like passions into like careers. And like not few people are able to like be able to achieve that, to like have something that they grew up young being able to do. And then like from hearing your story, it seems like as if God always at least showed you what you wanted for you to be able to decide if that's what you really wanted or not. So you was always able to like see like, all right, well, from getting to like college, always wanting to be in broadcasting, but then getting that opportunity and then being nervous, actually doing it, you realize like maybe I'm not, kind of like built for it in that realm. Then like going to like live TV, ESPN, and then really seeing like, all right, oh my God, this is the big leagues. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, damn, I really don't want to do it like in this realm, but still being around your passion and still being around like the thing that you was able to do, and then through that and all those opportunities, I guess you like found your niche, within it, and then now you was able to like monetize it. And I feel like it's so many people that like, create out here, like especially now, like it's like the the world of creating, like you get paid massive amounts of money from being able to have like content. So so many people is trying to figure out ways to like monetize that in just more than one ways of uploading. Because like in basketball, like as like you just a player, but like when you get up higher, you realize like it's coaches, it's trainers, it's film, data analytics, it's mental health people, nutritionists, all these roles that break down that you would never be able to do. I guess what I'm trying to say is like in your world of being a creator and being able to see like all those different ways, what is all the different creative ways if you was an up and coming, creator that you can be able to like fit in besides being on the camera or, or doing like uploading? Like what is all the other roles that people do not know about, in that role?
Yeah, I mean there are a ton of roles, like when you go and you say, okay, we want to make a documentary or we want to make a series about something. There are everything from writers to producers to directors to camera people to sound people to operations folks who are booking all the crews and rooms and hotels, and there's just a ton of roles that I have no idea exist. You know what I mean? And it's just like you're saying, it's like a sports team. Like you got your players and your coaches, but you didn't know that there was a trainer. There was like a trainer, and then there was like a whole training team and nutritionists and and mental health folks, and strength coaches and all that. So yeah, I mean we work with I work with all kinds of people, all kinds of different producers, directors, editors who I had no idea that editing was a thing, and now it's like how basically I make my living, a lot of the time is freelance editing. But I didn't know that when I was putting together those little Sports Center clips, back to back on the tape, I was like trying to get it perfect, so it like looked like it was like the same reel of highlights, right? Like, so there was no like dip to like somebody hearing some, I was to hear somebody speaking in between, which was impossible to do that. But like I didn't know that was editing, and that's what I do now. And I was doing it when I was 16, in my room on PCR. But yeah, there are any number of roles. You can be an executive, producer. You can be, a lot of different things, which is kind of fascinating. And that's one of the things that I like about it too. Is like the team aspect. Like I'm one of those people who I know that I don't have all the answers to everything. So it's like a lot of times it's like let's all sit in the room and figure this out. Like, okay, we're gonna make a documentary on whoever, like how do we get that person and how do we tell the story best and who do we need to tell this story? Not only who do we need from their life, from say it's athlete X, who do we need from athlete X life to who do we need on our side to help us tell this story? Do we need a writer? Do we need do we need a celebrity voice? Do we need who do we need to go out and get? Who do we need to, who are the 5 editors or 4 or 3 or 2 editors that we need to produce this thing, what I mean, to tell this story. So there are any number of roles. And it's always kind of surprising. I think that all of us have kind of learned about all these roles that we had no idea existed, right, as we came up through the ranks, and we all kind of find a niche in one of these roles, whether it was exactly what we were going for or not, and I think that again, it's kind of like the journey for everybody's a little different, and it's kind of the sweetest part of it too, right? It's like figuring it out, and when we grow to be successful in what we're doing, you're like, oh yeah, that was cool, and that was cool when I found out that I didn't like to do this or did like to do that or whatnot.
Yeah.
I
I
love
love
those
the
moments.
fact I love that you asked that question. One is because I think not only there, how many people are actually like reinventing their career. So it could be someone who is, they are at a point in their career they just want to try something else, or they've started to dabble on the personal side in some of this content creation. But they're like, wait a second, I've got something here I want to create. Or it can be someone who's new, up and coming, and they're just trying to figure it out. And to that end, though, I really love how you told that story of you try to do it, you're sweating, you're like, this isn't for me, but you took that risk and you didn't see it as a failure, so you're just going to quit. You just took it as information that actually then informed the next thing you were going to do, which I think is good for all of us to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, um, I didn't know at the time that it was information and that it was informing what I wanted to do. I just knew that, like, I don't want to get in front of the camera and lights and sweat anymore. Maybe I would have gotten better. Maybe I could have, tried it a couple more times and see how it went. But they didn't ask me to do it again. I was okay with it. I did actually even work as a camera operator once shooting. They asked me to shoot a hockey game, and I did not know hockey from like horse racing. I didn't know anything about hockey. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to be, it was like the main camera operator,
Oh God.
which I guess
you're like, where's the puck? Where am I supposed
it was easier because I was like, I'm just staying wide. Just stay wide and just like, here's half the rink and then here's half the rink. And it's just going to go back and forth. Someone's going to score, someone's going to have, I'm not doing it. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you take those little steps and try and you figure it out. I'm lucky that I got exposed to that because I thought, for a minute when I was a kid that's like what I wanted to do, and then I realized, no. And then I saw like the bigger picture, like you said, the big leagues. Xavier. I was like, I don't like this either. Like the nightly, live TV, I realized was not for me. The pressure and the stress of every night. There was a lot to be said for it because like every day's a blank slate and you start something new. But it was a lot of high stakes pressure, a lot of running around, a lot of folks screaming, yelling, and I was like, live TV, okay, check on that. What's next? Because it's what you think. Like sometimes the goal or what you think is your goal, careful what you wish for, right? It turns out to be not what you actually wanted, and that's what I thought. I thought I wanted to go to sports channel, ESPN. I was clipping those clips on myself as a kid, and then I got there when I was 22 years old, and I was like, "What is this? No, thank you."
That kind of remind me of like when I got done playing basketball. I went through that phase like that. Most athletes go through, where they just really don't know what they're doing. But I kind of like organically took that approach of what you did, but I did it in like with life in general. Like I just kind of like put my brain together of just thinking about like what I really wanted more than what I really wanted to do. I just looked at like the lifestyle that I really wanted, and then I was like, all right, well, in each industry it's a route to this lifestyle. So let me go figure out who is living this lifestyle off of whatever industry it may be, and then let me see if what it takes to get there is something that I want to, put myself in their shoes to go do. So then I went around like, if you was in real estate, and if you didn't make $1 million in real estate, I wasn't talking to you. But if you did, and I got to be around it, or if you made $1 million selling cars or whatever you made $1 million in, I basically, was going behind the scenes and kind of like looking and seeing. And then it took for me to get around the like restaurant industry kind of, but mixed in with the entertainment, that for me to be able to see like I had some type of like meshing area in this space, where I feel like this kind of complements like what I am, because like I always never like since I was younger I never knew how to cook to this day, don't know how to cook, and I haven't lived with my parents since I was younger, so I always ate out. So I've been at all restaurants you can possibly name, around the world. Like I've been in more hotels than I've been in my house. That's what like I used to always tell people. Like always been on the road. And then being able to, like, when I was in college, one of the dudes that I was close with, I used to give him tickets in exchange for him letting me come to his restaurant and eat for free, because like our games was always sold out at VCU. And he would come there, but then like, I'll go on little runs with him, like to Kroger to go get the ice, or like, just do things like in passing, just like building a relationship. And then like fast forward, when I got with the players on the NBA team, when I came to Utah, the first thing that they wanted me to do was I was throwing these private parties at like the restaurants for them. And then through that I was able to build relationships with the owners here, and then I just started to be able to like get partnered in. And then like our restaurants now, like we have the most profitable, most successful restaurants in the whole city. And now even with the barbecue company, now it's national, like it's a national brand that we operating. So I would have never, until like I got around that dude, which was his name was Michael. And when I got around him, it was like Michael and Giuseppe. Giuseppe was my age, and he was riding around the McLaren. He was he was just doing it, and I was like, man, off of restaurants. Then I got around Michael, and then I seen like this passion for it, and I was like, all right, and I'm kind of good at it. And then I had my first one, which was the barbecue thing, and now I go around the world, literally traveling, touring, and and selling barbecue online. So it just was like me. I feel like the same thing with you. Now that I noticed through others, like if you don't know like what you want to do, I think you might just want to go check and try to get as close to it as possible, whether it's like paid or free, you know, to just try to see like if you said what you asked for is really what you want, because sometimes like when you get there, it may not be like what you really want. And I feel like most people don't get those experiences to even get close to things like that for them to know what they want. They kind of just like get forced into things and just do what they feel like they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you learn by doing, right? And like that's how a lot of us, kind of learn. It's like you think you want something, you actually do it. You're like, okay, this is cool, and this is what I want to do, or it could be the other way around.
I think the
And,
mindset, though, what you're talking about, both of you talked about, is, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's obviously like we're all at different points in our life. And so, but I love hearing that mindset instead of so many times I hear kids are coming out of college and they're like, I have to do that. Have to know exactly what I'm going to do. And they think it's a decision that they're going to make forever. And I think it's so important to know, again, it's like whether you're more established and you're wanting to reinvent yourself or you're coming up and you don't totally know, well, then all the experiences that we gain along the way, that all aids to our evolution. That all aids that's why I said it's like information. Does it feel good all the time? No. It's because we're taking lumps if it doesn't work out. And there's the, God, what, I don't know, honestly, it feels like you get punched in the face when it doesn't work out. But at the same time, it's just information and redirection. And then you go figure the next thing out. But I think I just think it's helpful to have these kind of conversations because it's a little kind of dials down the pressure of you have to know exactly what you're doing. My husband reminds me all the time, none of us know what we're doing. We're all making it up as we go.
Yeah, no, it's true. And you talk about, it's funny you talk about reinventing yourself because like I constantly think about stuff like that. Like, should I reinvent myself? How do I like, what's because it's like, I know so many people that think, okay, I'm at this stage of my life. I just got to stick it out for another 5, 10 years, and then done.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't think that way. It's like, I think like, I have an aunt who had a big job at a newspaper for a long time, and then she went and taught at the university, at the University of Miami, and she, has a whole second career, and she kind of reinvented herself. So like, I always think about that. I'm like, oh, maybe I can go and teach or do something like that, one day,
Yeah.
or whoever, who knows what it's going to be, you know what I mean? But like, it's totally like, kind of, it drives me a little crazy when people kind of limit themselves, thinking, no, I'm done, this is all I need, this is all I know how to do, and like, listen, I'm someone who's done this for a long time, and I'm still doing, it's like, sometimes I think of it as like, oh, okay, I have a job here, and this is, I'm going to sign up to do this thing, I'm going to edit this documentary. And I was editing when I was 25 years old, and then I was producing and directing, and editing again. And like, you can think of it as like taking a step backwards, but no, like, for me, it's like opening up doors to other people, to other projects, to other things that I've, experienced and people that I've met. And, and it's really opened up a whole different world for me. Like, I've worked on music shows, I've done corporate work that I've been doing, I've done food shows, And so, I just think it's like, it's healthy to kind of keep thinking, what's next? What can I do differently? What can I do, better? even if it just applies to like the stuff that you're doing right now,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, how can I make that better? And then, and then those thoughts start to creep in about like, maybe I can do something completely different. You know what I mean? Or what can I do? I have a million thoughts. I have a million thoughts about like things I can
Yeah.
do. You know what I
What,
mean? Like,
what did you so I know you did and you can elaborate more into it. You did documentaries, you did series. That was mostly like during that. But now that it's like live stream, now that it's like, all these like social media platforms and stuff like that, like are you in this space now? Are you in, like
I,
have you transferred to that space, or are you still like, on the other,
I'm,
like
s-
what side are you on?
I'm, s- yeah, no, I'm still kind of on the long form side. Like the series. Like I just do. I mean, I do. I should say I do a little bit of both.
Hmm.
Do a little bit of this side versus that
So
side.
you hybrid. You hybrid.
A little bit, yeah. Not as much as I'd like to be, but yeah, definitely. Because like I do some corporate work, which involves a lot of content that goes strictly digital, strictly social media, strictly um, strictly online for a number of different platforms. But then really the sweet spot is the long form stuff, the sports docs. Like I just did. Last 4 years, 3 out of the 4 years, I've done the series for Uninterrupted on Amazon, Bronny James, his high school team, which really sure that like more than half of the viewers for that come from social media. You know what I mean? They don't come from people going on Amazon and be like, oh, what am I going to watch tonight? Oh, yeah, let me watch this show about the high school basketball team in California and Bronny James, and P. Wade's kid was on it for the first year, you know. So yeah,
Was
I
you there when
do.
Brandon Boston was there?
What's yeah, DJ Watson was there. Yeah,
Yeah. He
he
from he from
he
yeah, from Georgia. He from my hometown, man. I was when he's first trainers and stuff like that before he went out to
he,
Sherry
yeah,
Kane.
yeah, he was awesome. He was awesome. He still is. And so yeah, so like the sweet spot is still that that kind of long form storytelling for me. You know, and that's one of those things where I keep I'm like, do I reinvent myself? Like friends of mine have suggested, friends of mine who aren't necessarily in our space, have suggested, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Well,
What do they suggest you do the most?
they suggest, like, they suggest that either, some have suggested that I become like that I try and become like a social media personality, which we've all established that me in front of the camera is not the way to go.
You're
Like
doing
Yeah.
great
people are
today,
like, oh,
Alfonso. You're doing great.
yeah, right. So it's
Yeah.
just because I haven't done it in a while. But like,
Yeah.
they have like if people are like, oh, you should go on camera and be like one of those YouTube people who shows people how to edit or storytell or produce or whatever. And a lot of it comes from the fact that I speak Spanish and that I grew up in Latin America, and then I feel like that market is always kind of trailing the English speaking market a little bit because people take what we do in English and then they apply it to Spanish, and that's
So
always
they
like
want you to be they want you to teach but and do it in Spanish though.
that too. That yes, that has been suggested. So which is cool, but like I'm not about to put myself on camera. Nobody wants to look at this. You know what I mean? And so like people might want to hear it. Listen to it. Listen to what I have to say. But like
Wait a second. So, but here's the thing is that the storytelling that you were able to do in that 3-year documentary at Sierra Canyon is like, if it's going to be chopped up and used in social media, like it would not be worth as much if it didn't have that storytelling that you built into it. You know what I mean? So it's an interest. I just think that there's so much that's relatable there, and that you kind of can't have one done right without the other done right. You know what I mean?
what makes you
yeah,
say
no,
what makes you say yes to doing something?
Oh yeah.
Like what
it's a good question.
what makes you like say, all right, I'm gonna go for it with this project.
A lot of it is availability, but mainly it's the project, and like it's usually a couple things. A, is this project cool? Like, do I want to work on this? Is this a story I want to tell? Like, B, who are the people working? You know what I mean? And a lot of times, most of my work comes from, if not all my work comes from word of mouth. I'm lucky in that regard. So it's either people that I know or people I've worked with before, friends. Like people always say, work with your friends. It's great. Right? Sometimes it can not be great. But, so it's usually like, I always tell people like, when you get interviewed, when you meet people, talking about new projects, I always tell people like, I just want to do cool stuff with cool people, with good people, because like a lot of times I've turned down jobs because I didn't necessarily want to work with the people that were doing the project because either A, I had a bad experience with them, or I was unsure, their motivation, you know what I mean? And so, I'd rather work with people that I, think and hope. I mean, you can, that's not always the case, like sometimes it's, job's a job and you got to take the job, right? Because you got to pay the bills and, we all have lives and families and whatnot. But, usually it's like, okay, and listen, and there's projects that I wish I could get on, that'd be cool to work on, like when Drive to Survive, I was like, oh, I had to get on this. And then it was like, okay, I don't have to get on that. Like, that's not, that's cool, but it's not like end all be all. And then there's other projects that I work on that I never would be, I'd be interested in, and I do get interested in it. You know
Do
what I
you?
mean? So,
I guess what is the process like? How do you like? If you have you ever got a show on to a network?
yeah, I mean, I myself have not, like, because I'm not, I'm not a business person. I'm more sort of creative. That's always kind of been my thing. Yes, I've worked on plenty of shows that have been on networks. You know what I mean? From all the major networks, ESPN, to Amazon and everything else. You know what I mean? And the old school networks. But yeah. So all the projects kind of go to different places, and all the content goes different places. Like the documentary I'm working on now could end up on Netflix, or it could end up on YouTube. You know what I mean? But they're spending a lot of money on it, and I would think that it would get pretty good distribution. But yeah, I worked on stuff that went on, Hulu and stuff that's been kind of all over. Even Quibi, which disappeared quickly. You know what I mean? Which was too bad because that was like an interesting project. It was about the anti-Sierra Canyon. It was a Catholic school in Jersey, and they had these kids from all over the world. You know what I mean? That would come in and play, and it wasn't the sexiest basketball that they were playing, but they were winning, and it was interesting. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like the Sierra Canyon Flash with celebrities, but we followed them for like a year and a half, and it was really interesting. I was kind of proud of that show. It kind of disappeared out into the ether. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I have a question for you. When you're making the show and it takes you a year and a half, it takes you 3 years that you're following them, you're showing over time, like at point, and I know you've also won an Emmy. So can you talk about like what kind of the highs and lows in that? And I'll explain why first when I'm asking this question, because a lot of times I feel the most engaged and charged up about it when I'm working with my team, and that feels the win to me. And I actually almost like, if when the project actually happens, when the thing comes off, whatever, then I actually feel like a low, because then it's out there, or if I won an award or something like that, or the project won an award, it's like I actually feel a bit down because I'm like, it's over. And then I get to thinking about what's next. So I'm so curious, again, like to go from doing a project that's so visible or winning an Emmy, like what is that emotionally for you?
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate to what you're saying because, like, when you're done with something, it's like, oh, okay, that's done, that's great. Like, you have something to show for it,
Yeah.
which is this thing you've created, which is amazing. And my conflict was always because, like, I didn't really know if people were actually watching the stuff that I did. It's not like we're making Oscar-nominated movies, you know what I mean? That like are in theaters and everybody's talking
Yeah.
about them. Like, I was, high school basketball content is a pretty small niche, in the sports world. For a long time, I was doing it with MLB, but like, a lot of the folks I was doing for MLB was for Latin American national rights holders. So like, I wasn't sure, how many people were watching. And then like, I'd go to Japan and I'd see them cutting up our show in Japan and just using like little snippets of it. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's cool, I guess. Like, didn't think that was going to happen, but yeah, I mean, I guess as long as it's getting watched, like, that's cool, But there are definitely, like, when you're working, I mean, you know, like when you're working on a long-term project, there are definitely highs and the lows. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh man, this is never going to happen. You know, you get constant notes and feedback from the client that doesn't end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot. Then there are also those moments of inspiration.
Yeah.
You have those aha moments when you're telling the story, or you're, you know, you think you're going to go in this direction, then you go in the other direction.
Yeah.
Um, and it's inspiring. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you know, it's definitely highs and lows, like anything in life. I think, you know, it's just about finding that balance and keeping kind of your eyes on the prize of the story you're trying to tell and doing it justice, really. Because like at the end of the day, when we're telling these stories, people are letting us tell these stories, you know, and you know, and they're letting us into their lives or their livelihoods, and, you know, and trusting us with their stories. I think that, you know, we say the human part is the most interesting thing of what we do. You know, like it's like the people who are wearing the jerseys or the uniforms, or the boxing trunks or whatever. Those are the people that's what matters. You know, the X's and O's and balls and stripes and whatever. Uh, less.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they start like a vehicle to tell the story. Not they matter less, but they, you know, they're not always the focus. You know, that's kind of why we got there. But to me, it's always like the human interest there. So I always try to like humanize the stories and make them interesting from a human perspective.
Yeah.
Do you
You know,
do y'all have like, do everybody get like a, like when you win an Emmy, do everybody get like a trophy? Do everybody get like a certificate? Do everybody, like, how does it work?
yeah.
Oh wait, we can't
Yeah,
see. You have to show us.
No,
you
I'm
can't
saying,
see
like,
it.
do every person get mailed
Yeah,
one that was like part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you win one, well, yes, it's kind of complicated. So like they submit a list. You know, whoever's doing the Emmy submissions, like you have to submit. You know, they don't just like decide like after that list. Like Oscars, these movies and directors and actors go on these campaigns to get nominated. And I mean, don't know anything about the Oscars because that's not the world. But, like, you know, that's the big leagues. Don't talk about big leagues. I'm like, yes, for Emmys, like companies will say, okay, what's our strongest stuff for the year, and then we submit it. You know, or they
Oh,
submit it,
yeah.
and then they put a list together of the people that are on there, and inevitably some people get left off. And I've been on that list that gets, you know, that gets left off. But yes, and then whoever wins, usually the people on that list, the company that you work for, the client, whatever, will give a trophy to, especially the folks that were on the official list. Sometimes they give a trophy to people that are not on the list. You know what I mean? I know someone who worked on a World Cup that was pretty big, and they got left off the list because he was a freelancer and it was really his concept.
No.
He was the one.
Well, of course that
I don't
happens.
know if it
But...
was right. So like he was the creative force behind it. It was his idea, and then they wanted Emmy and didn't put him on the list because he was a freelancer and they didn't want to spend the, you know, I think the Emmys are like $900 or something like that. You know, and I heard that they were more expensive than Oscars. Like they have to pay for each trophy, and then yeah, you get one in the mail.
That's pretty
You know,
cool.
it's kind of a good
That's
day.
pretty
The
cool.
day that it comes in the mail. You know, I mean, sometimes it takes months, but it's
That's
cool.
pretty
You know?
cool.
And I put him here in the bedroom in the corner in the office. You know, my wife won't let me put him in the living room, but you know, maybe one day we have a bigger place. I'll convince her. You know,
No,
No,
that's
that's dope.
but I get it. They're kind of cheesy to have in the living room. My aunt has four of them, and she has them like in her, you know, guest bedroom, like tucked away in the back. You know what I mean? She's got the family record. So
family record.
You need two more.
Yeah.
yeah, right. I need three more.
Three
Yeah.
more.
We have Michelle, after this we have to tell, because we have to get your expertise, because we have like it's kind of like something that's never really been done before. Obviously, you know, I'll give you more information. With this barbecue thing, man, I'm telling you, like, we literally are going like city to city and like bringing out every celebrity in each city, and like every food like when we went to Atlanta, like it was like within 3 days, I damn near met every celebrity you can meet. But it's like, it's crazy to like go to a place, post on your social media, and just see 500 to thousands of people just pull up, and every celebrity, and you on news, and next thing you know, you on interview, like you just selling food, but like it's like, for I don't know, like you drawing these large crowds and like everybody is coming, like everybody that's like business owners in that city is like pulling up. It's like you're going viral each city. Then we went to Texas, and then the Cowboys, like the Universal Studios, they asked us to put our location there. We was on the front page of the whole Dallas news. Like the helicopter came like for the like off of a food truck. We just got to Vegas for Super Bowl. All of the NFL, like Randy Moss, you name it, like E40, like all these dudes are just like coming, pulling up. The food critics are coming out, like the like Las Vegas restaurant, like all these places that come in, and it's just like and like now it's like we're in space, not knowing what's going on, but just like doing it, but knowing that something magical is going on though, like it's happening, but we don't know what's happening though right now, and it's like
Yeah, but you
and we did
saying
like a
that,
couple of like on YouTube.
yeah, go ahead.
On you, go ahead. You about to say?
I was gonna say you
I was gonna say
saying
on
that just
YouTube we
makes,
have like 400. Okay. No, I'm listening. I was listening to Shauna. Uh, but on YouTube we have like 400,000 subscribers. We be playing around with things and it get like 400,000 views, like, or even like his little posts like he do, like even like our little short reels get millions of views. Like we have like over 500,000 on TikTok, 300,000 on Instagram. And like we literally made it off of content. Like we sell orders because of his content. Like we make millions of dollars because of his content. And that's the only reason why we have the power to be able to pull up and do things. And like the Food Network reached out, they wanted us to be on like barbecue bras and stuff like that. And but like he's like, man, I know I got this platform that God gave me. I know I can reach people on my own. He just want to figure out how he can like do it, he know we got the influence of the people, like all these cool things are happening, any celebrities willing to pull up, but like it's just like stuck at that moment. But it's like everybody want in. Like he even got offered a record label deal, like as a barbecue dude, like because like he like the way he do his content and the things that he says and things like that nature. So like they said that he's like the first black person, he got a grill in his mouth, but like the first black person to represent food and highlight oxtails, which is like a food that everybody like really banished, and like and he kind of revived it and made it back like big, and now he's going all over the world, selling out and connecting people through it. So it's just like people reach out all the time, but it's just nothing been authentic, and me, I'm in charge of that, and I don't really know but I'm knowing just like the little things like that we are doing. Like every time we cook with a celebrity, I was like, man, let me just see what this look like, and I made a show called Smoking with Celebrities, where I just like take the experience of us going to do that and record it and then put it out there. And then like I seen that, and like that was working well, and that was like that was cool. But like for the most part, like I said, like in your shoes and like seeing some situation like that, and I was just sitting here thinking, I was like, man, this may be something that he'll have some guidance in, because like it's a cool, unique opportunity that's going on right now in the present. But like the dude just don't got no guidance, and I don't know what to do in that realm. I know how to like get us opportunities and things of that nature, but I don't know how to go in that route.
No, I mean, if it's a story that needs to be told, and the story's there, and then we tell it. It's just a to tell it and how to relate to people that they can appreciate, understand, and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was starting to talk earlier, is like that part, Alfonso, you talked about earlier, is like that human side of it, is what is that story that you're telling? It doesn't matter if the person's cooking barbecue or shooting a basketball or has the boxing shorts on, like you said. And it's funny also because if you kind of link it back to my whole focus that I do about like leadership and working with people, it's also like, who are the people that you're taking care of? Who are the people that you're working with? It's the same thing. You talked earlier about not wanting to do some project because of the people that were involved. It all comes down to like, what is the story of people and how are you connecting with people? And then you can actually you can tell stories. People want to be around that. They want to consume that literally and like, figuratively with content. But I think, that I think is when you can make such a difference and really break through, is when you can identify that part of it.
Yeah, like it's 100% about the human story about it. Whether it's basketball or barbecue.
Yeah.
Like if you do something on this barbecue person, it's not going to be about necessarily the food. It's going to be about their journey and everything that's exploding and blowing up in their life, with their business, with their in a positive way, or if it's a negative way, like the stresses of of building a business and creating it and having it blow up and whatever, it's going to be about, um, that human element, that human story of like that, everyone can relate to, of the stress of trying to make something work and creating work and making work, and maybe not everyone can relate to creating work for themselves, but certainly in putting in the work and doing hard work and doing a good job, which at the end of the day is what everyone, for the most part, wants to do,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. That
that's kind of where the success comes from.
totally. And I think like as content has changed so much, I think that and I think even leadership has changed. I think that more and more people are gravitating toward is what's the authentic story. It's like,
Yeah.
especially the generations of people coming up, I think. Oh my God, have you seen the stuff recently where there's people, Gen Zers, who are getting let go and they're getting laid off and they're literally videoing their layoff situation. It's crazy to watch, but it's like, I was watching it the other day and kind of thinking through the lens of the person who was being laid off, and they're literally just calling bullshit on the person that's not being authentic in the conversation. So again, I just think it's such a commonality of whatever story you're telling, however you're trying to communicate, the effectiveness comes into nailing that human element and being authentic in the process.
Yeah, that's what it's all. That's what everybody can relate. Not everybody can relate to barbecue. Not everybody can relate to basketball, but everybody can relate to the human being that's going through something in order to, succeed, achieve their
Yeah.
dreams, or just get by and survive. And, hopefully, because that's what we're all, kind of doing, right? We're all trying to make it. We're all in different ways.
Yeah.
Some people just trying to survive. Some people trying to enjoy themselves and succeed and make millions of dollars. And so, I think that's how you can relate, like the ups and downs, the highs and lows. And that's like it's always a story. Like we always ask that, like, okay, what's the conflict here? And if there is no conflict, it's slightly
Oh,
less
yeah,
interesting. Because if that person has no conflict, then it's just not as compelling. You know what I mean? But then, and sometimes the conflict comes from an unexpected play. And as long as
yeah.
it's there and as long as it's interesting and compelling, like I am not a foodie, so like, but sometimes I get sucked into watching food content. I've worked on food shows. I don't know anything. Like they're like, no, we can't use that shot because the cutting board is filthy, and I was like, what? That's the
What?
thing? Okay.
Man, I swear, every time, man, he be on that, like he be on that. Like I was just kind of like you when I hopped in. I really didn't have no food, nothing. But he was like, man, cleanliness is like the number one key. Like, make sure that everything is like clean. Like, I was thinking like it's something else. Like, what's getting you all these followers? But really, he just say make sure everything is clean. He won't film if the camera lens not clean, if the pit not clean. He's like, because people just want to see food on clean surfaces. He was like, if it's not on clean surfaces, people don't want to. They don't deem you as neat. He was like, if you could present, food that looks good on clean surfaces, that attracts more attention. But like you said though, like the more important thing is just seeing like how it connects with the people, like how he was able to take himself, like make this rap image and then like mix it in with food and business, and like people call him like the masterpiece of like barbecue, or like people be like they say so much, but I didn't see people like literally cry, like cry when they meet him, or like take pictures, stop the car, like it's just been like get ran out of Walmart. He get ran out of Walmart. I didn't see Sam's Club. Like he didn't like. It's just crazy just to see like off of like cooking barbecue, bro. Like you didn't became famous, like so. I think it's a story that I feel like you get you another trophy, man. Like getting behind it to be told, because it's something that's just really happening, that the world is taking heed, and a lot of attention is coming towards it. But like people like you and like situations like this is kind of like why me and Shauna is doing what we're doing, just to, like give more people opportunities just to be able to see, and understand that, like really this is how things like kind of like happen. And the behind the scenes of just seeing, letting people know like that route of just like following your passion and just like connecting with good individuals, and then realizing like when you hear like the how of like what you said got you there, it was nothing more of you just basically staying like on your path and just taking advantage of every opportunity that you had essentially that was in front of you, It's nothing more and nothing less. Like you didn't say nothing that was like rocket science, or like, that like, like took like, like a MBA degree to like kind of like go do. It was just like, being creative, like without even having the opportunity. Like it didn't, nobody told you to go cut up all them VCRs and like for you to go like do that, but you just like took your passion and then it just kind of keep leading into things. So I feel like that is like the common thing that we'll kind of see over like the season and the episodes that we have like with people, and like it's just like cool, like just to see that, like, man, like it just make you just want to stay doing to what you doing. Like now I'm like continuously inspired to just like, hey, I'm just gonna stick to doing what I'm doing and letting the story unfold, because that's where like the magic happens. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. So actually, Alfonso, I want to ask you a couple more questions, and then I know we're gonna have to wrap up here. But that actually makes me think, like, what keeps you going every day? Like, you went from in-house working for ESPN to MLB. You've been out on your own. You're making it. You're making these awesome films. Whoops, and I just lost these. But it's not easy, right? It's hard. And so, but what keeps you going every day? And how can, because that's part of I'm gonna stop there. What keeps you going every day?
I mean, it's a lot of things, right? It's I'm one of those people who, I know a lot of freelancers who will say, okay, I'm going to work on this golf show, this Netflix golf show for 8 months, and then I'm going to take 2 months off. And then I'll wait for the next gig to roll. I'm not one of those people. I like to fill my schedule, and many times there are 2 or 3 things on the schedule at the same time, you know. Um, so I think it's the calendar that keeps me going, to be honest, right now. I mean, it's a lot of, that's the kind of like the manic in me, like pressing, pressing to always know what's coming up, what's coming up, what's coming up, what's coming up. You know what I mean? Like, I used to work in baseball, and you used to work in basketball, and you used to play basketball, and you used to play basketball, and it's a very seasonal thing, right? So, like, that was one of the things I liked about it. Like, I knew, okay, spring training's come around, this is when we're going to start getting busy, and then and then it's opening day, and then it'll be a little lull,
Yeah,
and then all-star, and then this, and, and whatever. And so, like, I kind of still treat my life like
yeah,
that, like, okay, summer, because now we have kids, and it's like, okay, summer's coming around, so what are we gonna do in the summer, and what are we gonna do in the fall? And then there's holidays or whatever. So, like, and then there's the work part of it that, like, you try and schedule around all of that. And so I guess with and being a freelancer, a lot of the elephant in the room that kind of has to keep you going is the
yeah.
work. You have to, kind of, you're working on this thing, but it's like, what's
What's
next?
next?
What's next? What's next? So, and a lot of it is, next job is going to come along if you do a good job on this one. You know what I mean? Put in 100% of yourself, of your effort into a gig. And it's happened to me many times where, like, I work on something and then somebody from that, job or, project says, hey, come, maybe sometimes it takes a year,
Yeah,
or whatever longer for them to call you. So, like, hey, are you around? Are you available for this? And that's kind of how my freelance life has gone.
yeah,
And so, and the work speaks for itself, I guess, because the phone keeps ringing,
yeah,
which is, knock on wood,
yeah.
it's still the case, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and so that's kind of it, like, the wanting to do new and different things, and to keep myself busy, because I know, like, I just had a few weeks where I was off and I was like going crazy. I was like reorganizing the house, and I'm not used to not working a lot,
yeah,
which is why I like, I work on whatever it is, as long as it's cool and the people are cool and the people are good. Like, I've done corporate work for big corporations, Fortune 500 companies, which, is not the most, sexiest stuff or like the most fun stuff always to do, but there are still stories to be told that, are very compelling. And some of the, proudest work I've done, the work that I've done over some of the work that I'm most proud of that I've done over the last couple of years has been for, some of the corporate clients that you wouldn't think, are, compelling and or interesting. You think it's just, paycheck.
yeah,
But that's, it's interesting. And, and then some of the things that I thought were going to be super fun and super cool were not as much, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Even though it's something that I thought that I really wanted to do. So yeah, so that's kind of a long-winded answer. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that
No, it's actually great, and it's kind of a segue to a close, which is so much of what we talked about here and what you just ended with is talking about your mindset, and it's like how you're showing up every day. And you basically are saying you're working to make yourself better than ever yesterday. You're working to continue to like control the controllables. You're going to make it through hard times. And it encapsulates under this concept I've come up with recently called the leadership athlete, because it doesn't mean that you had to have been an athlete. It means that like you're taking that same passion to make yourself and the other people around you as good as possible so you can make that impact on the company, on the business, on the work, on your trajectory. And you've shared so much about your own evolution. That is a huge part of that. So I love to see it. I love to see it in you, Alfonso. I'd love to see it in you, Xavier, because I think it's something that so many of us can really relate to. And I'm kind of calling it a leadership athlete revolution, because I think the more we share this kind of things with people, then it becomes like, a way that people can be and continue to lead effectively in this world. So I appreciate both of you for showing up today and for being a part of my journey. Alfonso, it's been so awesome to catch up with you. And so before we let you go, though, I know you said you're by word of mouth only. So if we're going to count it, if people hear this show and you want to get in touch with Alfonso, we could be your word of mouth. We could get you in the door with Alfonso.
For sure. But it's not only word, sometimes I gotta go for it, I mean, which we all do.
Yeah.
I work and I'm grateful for the work, and I'm grateful, to keep the ball rolling. You know what I mean? I've been, I'm one of the lucky ones. And I think we all are lucky in our way.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Well, thank you both so much. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll have another episode coming up to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
All right, I stopped recording. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate that. That was fun. I don't know, Xavier.
No, yeah. He's gone. Yeah.